Today's agenda, we're going to be talking about the various reporting. Some of the things that we will cover in this webinar will be our payroll reports, financial reports, that's out of the reports and stats area. Also how you can customize these reports for your own usage, and saving and exporting not only in the reporting area, but off of the grids, mainly the dispatch grid where you can create custom reports there, as well as out of payroll in those areas there. So let's go ahead and get started on this today. I'm going to go ahead and bring up the program here. Hopefully I still have it up. Whoops, bring up this one here. That's probably the better one to bring up. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and start with just some of the basic reporting that you can do. And by that, I mean creating your own grids to do reports. As you can see here on the main grid, there are many columns to be displayed on this. One thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to expand this out a little bit further to get a little bit more information on the grid here for us. Go ahead and do that. On the grid, and we did cover part of this in the grid usage dispatching, but as you can see, there are columns here. These would be customized to how you would like them to be based upon creating the grids or custom grids there. You can also show all columns. In so doing, as you can see, it brings pretty much all of the information that is in every one of those reservations onto your grid. Obviously, there's probably more there than anybody could ever use, but there are all of the columns there. Now, what you can do from here, if you're trying to create grid or reports or Excel spreadsheets for a customer perhaps, you can funnel any one of these columns. So if I were to go over to here and say I want to get just this customer, by selecting that, you'll see that that's the only ones that I have on that grid now. To further customize this, there are other things you can do. I can either right-click and remove columns, or probably the easiest way to do it is to move all columns to your chooser. In so doing, you see I now have all of my columns down here. I can then, from here, pull any one of these up to the grid that I would like to. Just drag it and drop it up there. And again, you can do any of these you want based upon whatever you have there. Just drag all of those up there to whatever you want. And from this point, you can now export out this particular grid. Just by selecting the grid export, you can pull it out into Excel for you to further manipulate it. Or you could even pull it into a PDF if your customer wanted something specific. You could utilize the PDF, export that out, and send that to them. Now, once I've got all these columns into the grid how I would like them, what you want to do is you can utilize the Customize Grid option here. By clicking on that, you would save your current grid layout. So we'll go ahead and just create one here. Just call it Test 1. Click OK. And that's now saved in my list of grids that are available for me to view anytime I wanted to. So if you had a customer that needed a very specific grid view, you could filter this down, label it the ABC customer, and the next time they needed it, all you needed to do is just highlight that grid, click on the Use Selected, and then you have that very specific grid for you to export out to Excel for your customer. And again, utilizing the grid export option there, pull it out into an Excel or another format there, and then provide that to your customer. That comes in handy. A lot of times people want very specific reports or maybe a manifest of upcoming jobs for a particular customer. You can go ahead and create those reports like we said, and then go ahead and export those out. Always remember, save that, so the next time that customer calls, you have that available to you. So some of the other reports that are available to us, other than the main grid here, if we go into our wages and commissions, now we did cover all of the creating wages and commissions in a previous webinar, but I'm going to go ahead and show you some of the features you can do with it now back in this area. Not only are you able to create our standardized pay reports, such as the pay report. As you can see, it breaks it down by driver, total. Each driver does have their individual sheets that you can present to them. And when you get to the bottom page of this thing, it will have your totals of how much your pay was for whatever date range you have selected. The date range is selected up here at the top by selecting a start date and an end date, and then doing the refresh. It would bring in that information to you there. Now, there are a couple different reports. Specifically right now I'm looking at just employees. I could look at only my drivers, or if I wanted to, just my contractors by selecting that option there. The main pay report that we just showed there a second ago, there's also a detailed pay report. Go ahead and select that one there. Now, the main difference between the report and the detailed pay report is that it gives a breakdown for the driver of their totals and how they were, the totals were derived for them. The other one simply gave a total amounts, but this breaks it down into all the various things, which could have gratuity, reimbursements, hourly pays. And again, when we get to the bottom, it's going to have your total for you to either present to your payroll company or for your own usage there. You can also do a summary pay report. By selecting the summary pay report, as you'll see, you'll get each individual driver will be on one area here. If this driver had 10 or 15 jobs, it would say 15 records. Total number of hours, as you can see, this one has 1.5, and then it has a breakdown of their total pay on that. Now, keep in mind, again, all of these can be saved or printed if you would like to. If you want to save it, simply use the save. If you're going to print, simply click on the print button, and then you can utilize those for your pay reports if you would like to. Affiliates, we also have affiliate pay here. Same functionality here. We can create a pay report or a detailed pay report. Same information is going to be available for the affiliates. And we also have commission agents. Now, we did address the commission agents previously, how their pay is derived, but now we're back in the reporting area so you can see what you can do with this information. All of the pay reports are there for the commission agents. And again, selecting the commission agent pay report, I have that commission agent. Scrolling down, I'm going to have my next one. And again, when I get to my last one here, it'll have all their information on that thing. Now, again, there are other things you can do in here. If we go back to the pay employees, this was available on the other ones there as well. But if I just wanted one employee, I could simply select them from the list here and then create their pay report. If I wanted to email all of the pay reports to the drivers, now keep in mind that only Bubba would get his and a driver would get theirs. It doesn't email everything to all of the drivers. It only emails individual pay reports to each of the drivers based upon whatever email address they have in their profile. So if I were to utilize the email pay reports, it would send the pay reports to each of those drivers for them to verify their upcoming paychecks. As in all grids, I do have the ability to filter in here by selecting the filter and then selecting whichever driver I want. And again, now I have just that driver. To clear that out, I utilize the little X down in the lower left there, and it brings back everything for me. You can also, if you would like to export this out to an Excel spreadsheet, not utilizing one of our customized formatted reports, you can utilize the grid export and pull it out into an Excel spreadsheet for further manipulation if you need to on that thing. A couple of the things, I know we addressed this previously, but by selecting any of the pluses over here on the side, you can see how the pay was derived for that individual driver. And that was the information that was displayed on the pay reports for that as well. Just a reminder, when emailing the pay report, you do have the option to either email the pay report, which is the same as this option, a detailed, which is the same as the detailed pay report, or the summary, which again was just individual totals for each of the drivers. You do have the ability in here again to move anything where you want it to. So if you needed to create it specially for you and then export it out, you can simply move those things around. Some of the things down here, the add, edit, delete, this does allow you to edit the pay. Go ahead and touch on this again. I think we covered it before, but just a reminder here. By selecting the edit, I have the option to edit any of these amounts. I can also delete them if I've decided the driver did not need that. And I can add other things to the driver. By selecting the add option, it lets me select from predefined pay items, which, as a reminder, were set up underneath our menu under list items. And you can add that pay to that driver. One thing back here, again, I can delete. Also, if you had a situation perhaps where Bubba was originally assigned to the reservation and then at the last minute they switched out and perhaps dispatch forgot to update it and you've already created your pay reports and everything, by selecting the edit option, you are able to switch that driver back here. So that means if there was a problem on one of the pay reports, maybe a driver didn't get his pay, you don't have to start all over again. You can simply go back there and adjust which driver that was going to be for that particular reservation there. And again, that's available throughout the affiliates as well as the commissions, being able to switch things around if there's any options there. And keep in mind that they all do have the grid export availability there. Okay, so those are the pre-formatted pay reports. The main grid there, being able to do exports and create, say, a customized spreadsheet for one of your customers that perhaps needs a list of all of their upcoming jobs. Maybe you have a group coming in. You were able to do that off of the main grid there. The other areas are the reports and stats. Back in here is where all of the revenue, booking analysis, pretty much everything you would want to know about the company, how you're operating, revenue, and various activities here. There are two different ones here. There is a revenue analysis and a revenue booking analysis. Please keep in mind that revenue analysis runs off of invoice date. Revenue and booking analysis runs off reservation date. Now what that means is if you have not created an invoice, it will not show up in your revenue analysis, but it will show up in the booking analysis. There's just two different ways to view reports. It has to do with accounting things, and I'll let Eddie address that here in a little bit, the difference between the two of them, but it does let you create two different things. So in here, I have many different options, pre-formatted options of what I can look at. In this particular one, we'll look at a summary charge item. I will either use a pre-formatted select date range, or I can use the calendars up here. I'll go back 60 days, do a search on this. And in here, you'll see that I have to whom it was invoiced. This is a summary of how much I invoiced to each of these customers. This is not detail of all of their reservations. This is, as it says, a summary charge item revenue analysis. In here, and then the totals are down at the bottom, letting me know how much the totals were. And then the grand total is down there, giving me that option there. Now, keep in mind, again, I can export any one of these items out utilizing the grid export down in the lower left-hand corner. Select OK, and it'll pull it out into either Excel or CSV, comma, separated value, or however you would like to pull that out for further analysis. Also, in here, again, I do have the ability to filter. This will be an important thing here in a second. As I can see, I can say, let me just see what Adam has done throughout the last 60 days. And obviously, he didn't give me much there. So let me find somebody else that might have a little bit more function to them. I'll go with Brian, because Brian travels a lot. In here, I have the totals just for Brian now. Being able to export out just that or view just that if I needed to. You can also, in here, and this is available in all of the grids. So let me go get another one that has a lot more detail in it. Let me go to the expanded detail charge item, do a search here. Now, as you can see, I have much more information. The previous one was just a summary of each of the customers. Now I have the details of all of those reservations that have been invoiced. Remember, if they are not invoiced, they will not be showing up in the revenue analysis area. But as you can see, as I go across here, I've got all my totals, get down to the end, and I have my grand total of how much I've invoiced throughout that date range there. From here, again, I do have the same functionality that I had on the main grids. If I want to go in here and say I just want a Brian geotest, click on that, and now I have only Brian's reservations that have been invoiced. Now, where this comes into play is if you would like to create a special customized grid for either particular customers that need things in special order. Again, keeping in mind that I can move things wherever I want to. I can remove columns simply by clicking on the remove. Or if I would like, I can use the move all columns and then start over and bring them all back up into the screen if I would like to. So let's go ahead and do that. I think I probably did that wrong now that I've done that. Well, let's go to a different grid because apparently I got that one messed up here. Okay, so now we have all the columns back there. So in doing this, if I need to create a customized grid, once I've moved things where I want or deleted out columns that I want in this particular thing, what I want to do is select the customize grid layout. So if there was a particular customer that needed a very specific report that you could provide to them through here using an Excel export, what I would want to do is click on the Save Current Grid. I'll just call that the Test Customer Grid. Test Customer Grid. And that grid would now be available for me the next time that customer required their special grid on that thing. So I would not need to recreate that every time I came into here. I would simply be able to select that grid, use that, select my date range, and then go ahead and do my grid export, providing to the customer the information they need. So again, in here, we've got various things. We've got revenue by vehicle. If I go in here and do this revenue by vehicle, it's going to provide me information as to how much revenue each individual vehicle brought me. You can also do comparative. You'll see that on a lot of these that there are comparative. So if I did a comparative here and I wanted to do the previous year on that as well, go back to February 1st. So right now I'm looking at February 1st, 2019 to April 3rd and February 1st, 2018 to that. When I do my search, it is now going to provide me with information between the two of them. So what I would have here is the comparative amount. I come down here, I've got different items in here, all my different companies, as you can see over on the left. The compared value, that would be the previous year, invoice would be this year, and then the variance, the difference between the two of them, letting me know the difference between those time frames there. So again, I can do that with different things, trip type, trip category, all these things are available to you to help you analyze where money is coming from and perhaps the various types of reservations you do. So whether that's trip types, source, revenue by driver, revenue by affiliate, all that information is available in here. Keep in mind that you can customize any of those by utilizing the customize feature there and then saving it for future reference. If I go into the booking analysis, in here, I'm going to have similar reports, but they're based upon reservation date, not invoice date. Keep that in mind. Revenue analysis is based on invoice date for accounting purposes, and revenue booking analysis is based upon reservation date. So the various things I can do in here, we'll go ahead and do this charge item. We'll do my search. There are a couple other things I can do in here. Now again, as you can see over here, I have a status letting me know where those particular reservations are. None of those are in billing yet. Had I had a greater date range here, let's go ahead and get a bigger date range on this thing. Go back to the first. And this will take a little bit of time here because I'm pulling a much larger sample of information here. But what you'll see here in this billing status is it's telling me where these reservations are as far as the process goes of being invoiced. Some of them are still in dispatch. I have others that are sitting in billing that have not yet been billed. Just letting me get an idea of what's going on with those things. And again, I can filter that, or as is available on every call or every grid, if I drag that and simply drop that right here at the top, now I have a distinction between the different ones. So here's the list of all of the ones not in billing. If I come down further, I'll be able to see the ones that are finalized and in billing but have not been invoiced, as well as invoiced ones and just sitting in billing. Now, one of the things we recently added in here, if I go into any one of these and say I want to get a summary of the various items on this thing, so let me go ahead and bring this back up here. Put this back up here, go back up there like that. And I want to get a summary total of how much each one of these things are, how much is sitting in each area. And this is again available in all of the columns. So what I've done here is I simply clicked on a right click and clicked on sum. And now it's telling me how much is in each one of those sections. So going back over to the beginning there, I've got $13,000 that are sitting in dispatch that haven't been billed out. I've got various things there, $452 that are invoiced. I can also from here, again, do all of my exporting if I wanted to pull that thing out there for me to look at. I'll go ahead and drag that back down there. So those are some of the things you can do in the reporting area here. Create your own customized reports. As you can see, it has all of my cost items across there as well. A couple other different reports back in here. There is something called a raw reservation data by scheduled pickup date. This could be used if you need to perhaps look at different information than what we provided in there. So this is basically all of the information that is in each one of those reservations. Again, many items in there. So if you needed to create perhaps your own customized report on something that we didn't have there for you, you have that ability in here to go ahead and do that. Again, I could go in here and say, okay, I just want to see, you'd have to know what customer that is, but that customer is, you can find that customer ID in their profile. Let me show you that real quick while we're sitting here. If I go into any one of my customers, just go to this one here. There's a customer ID located up at the top up here that shows 26213. That would coincide with that report that we had back there of being able to determine which customer you were after. Corporate ID is the same, being able to do all of those. You can also from here, again, customize. If I just needed to always get this particular one here, call it Joe Customer. And then save that for future usage. So the next time I came back in here, I would be able to select that again. If I want to reset it, show all my columns, simply do that, and it brings back all the columns for me. This has, if I look at any one of these will not have money associated to them. These will be simply booking reports. So if I were to look at my bookings by trip type over my date range here that I have selected, do a search, it'll tell me how much or how many I did of each one of these. Now that was different than the revenue analysis. If you look here, it gave me money, revenue by trip type. This merely gives me the number of jobs that were booked for those particular types there. The revenue analysis, those various things there. Okay. Another one back in here that some people find very useful is the taxes. You're able to look at your detailed tax revenue analysis. Go ahead and look at that one there. It gives you the taxes that you collected for each of the various categories you have. That way you could simply fill out your tax reports, forms that you need to submit to anybody else there. Okay, so that has a lot to do with the reports there, keeping in mind that booking analysis has to do with reservation date. Revenue analysis has to do with invoice date. Everything is exportable simply by clicking on the grid export. You can then pull that out and further analyze your information there. Your wages and commissions, again, it has based upon whatever date range I'm looking at there. And again, you have the ability to export everything by utilizing the grid export down in the lower left-hand corner there. Also, on my main dispatch grid here, I have the ability, again, to customize a grid to what I want to see. If I go back to my test one there, select that, you see it just has limited information there. But based upon what information you were looking for, this just lets you save various forms instead of having to create them over and over again. And again, being able to export that. You do have the ability to customize by removing. You can move them all to the chooser down there, and they will all be down there. If I go back to show all columns, it will bring everything back to my area there. There are a couple other things that you can do within the customers. We'll touch on these now, even though these aren't reporting, they are forms of reports. In here, underneath my customers, I do have the ability to export this entire grid. Or if I use the export all records, it brings out all of the information for each one of the customers. If I use the grid export, it's simply bringing out what's visible here. All records brings out everything for me to see. Same thing is available within our corporate billing profiles. We have a grid export and we have a export all. Underneath the customer corporate reports and data export, we also have some other pre-formatted reports that you can run in here. So perhaps you wanted to get a list of all of the email addresses for your customers. Simply select the customer email addresses, do a search, and here we have all of the email addresses. You could export that out, put it into a email program, and then send out whatever information you wanted to them. You can also do that with addresses. You're going to send out greeting cards or Christmas cards. You're also able to do that. So all of that is available in here. And again, prior to doing your export, if you want to get rid of certain ones, you can remove the column and then do your exports from there. So customers, we can do all our exporting and reporting. Corporate profiles, we can do our exporting. Customer corporate reports allows you to get to information such as their email addresses, contacts, corporate billing profile with discounts, our wages and commissions. Other areas we can do some exporting in, our costing and invoicing. If we go to our manage invoices, you'll notice down in the lower left-hand corner here, we have a grid export, which allows you to export this information out into an Excel spreadsheet. Let me get a little bit bigger date range on this thing, 60 days. Hopefully I have something there. From here, again, I can do my grid export out on this thing, pull it into an Excel, and again, further manipulate it. So this might come in handy if you had a customer that wanted not the pre-formatted invoices, but wanted it in an Excel spreadsheet. You could do that, again, simply by selecting a particular customer, or you can, once you get it in here, do your filter, click OK, do my export, and it'll allow me to export that out to present that to a customer. Keep in mind that even though we do have some pre-formatted reports, you do have the ability to create whatever view that you want or your customer is requesting of you, simply by creating those customized grids, as well as filtering them and then doing your exports on those various things there. So I think that pretty much does it. Eddie, you want to address this difference between the revenue and booking analysis real quick?
Okay, thank you, Brian. The revenue in FASTTRAK is measured and captured in two different ways. Most of your accountants want to know, for example, your AR on a bill basis and when those billings went out and what the agings are. So if you take, and that's just the way it is in looking at the accounts receivable, we have to rely on bill date. You can of course affect the bill date inside the product, and a lot of people try to mirror their billing dates with their production dates, meaning the dates of pickup, actual pickup and drop off. And that's fine, but you're still going to have some stragglers, picked up one day, dropped the next. Or you'll have an invoice where the client insists that a 2-week order all goes in one invoice and it ended in another month. So you'll have those types of things that happen that'll cause a difference between your booking or your actual reservation date revenue and your billed revenue. So all that this tries to do here in looking at this revenue analysis is say, if you want to see revenue on a true accounting basis, use the tab that says revenue analysis invoice date basis. That means the accounting, the AR, the accrued revenue, and all that is going to then match for you. If you say, no, I don't really care about that, I'll let the accountant worry about that. I'm worried about, I want to know how much actual revenue I produced in January or February or March, whether it was billed or not. Now, obviously, any unbilled revenue is critical to you because of cash flow. So in looking, go ahead and click the other one there for me, Brian, on revenue and booking. When you go into this one, there's only one report really that relates to revenue, and it's just called a charge item booking analysis. This particular report, when run on these dates, will look at revenue based upon when the transactions trips were supposed to be picked up and supposed to be dropped. So this is going to count the revenue generated from those, whether billed or not, on a what I call production basis. This is my production for January, my production for February, if we were manufacturing concerns. So looking at just those trips that we actually ran in January, even if we didn't get the bill half the month, it'll still give you that entire month's production. That helps you with things like matching the booking performance. It helps you with matching deposits, for example, but mostly it relates to the efficiency of the operation and how many bookings did we have in January, how many bookings did we have in January from March, April, May. All those things can be taken into consideration and give you a good picture of where you need to be. Now, a lot of these reports, Brian, I don't think you pointed out, but many of them, when you run them, will give you the ability to create some graphs and charts. And sometimes it's the old picture worth 1,000 words cliche. It'll give you a good picture of where your company is. And you'll get a quick, if you just did bookings by something, it'll give you a real quick graph or chart and let you look at this and say, oh my goodness, look at that. ABC Limo is 64% of everything I do, you know, that kind of stuff. And maybe you knew it in your head, but these give you hard numbers. So when you're talking to people, talking to banks, these kinds of statistics really help you. Okay, that's all there is for me.
Okay. Two other areas I thought about while we were going through that you can create these, we call them customized reports. They're really Excel spreadsheets that you can then get further information. You do have the ability underneath the employees. As you'll notice down here, I have a grid export option available to me and an export all records to CSV. So a grid export is going to bring out what I see on this grid. The export all records is going to bring out all their information for each one of these drivers for you to perhaps utilize in another program if you needed to. It's going to include their phone numbers, their email addresses, any of their licenses that you can see in here that were set up underneath the list management area. You have that ability also in your affiliates. You can do a grid export here.
Hey Brian, while you're on the employee table there, please, on the first tab, cover the construction of those columns based upon the menu settings and how they can be added in there for extra reporting.
Sure. If I go back over underneath my menu, how we got these columns in here. Okay, so if we go to our menu and we go to our list management and we use our drop down here, we'll come down here and we'll find things license type. Right now, these are the ones that we have pre-added in here, and if you look, they'll coincide with all these columns over here. If I needed to add a new one, simply click on the add. I can type in here whatever license type I want. So we'll just call it the test 123 license. If you are based out of the, I believe, New York area, we do have some regulatory types that you can do some TLC reporting with. You would simply match that up to the NYC or New York Department of Transportation there. By default, it's always going to have a 30-day notification. And what that means is if you look down here at the bottom where it says driver license expiration, or these ones that are red here, those are telling me that we're either within 30 days or in my case here, I'm past 30 days. The two things, show this license expiration on the dashboard and show this license value on the dashboards. Two different things here. If I have both of these unchecked, the column will not appear up here in this grid for us. If I want the column to appear, I simply select both of those, and it has two different things here to it. So let's go ahead and click OK. Let's go ahead and close that. Let's go back up to this driver here. Let me do my edit. And underneath the driver, the licenses, I now have the ability to add that license that I just put in there. So if I click on the add, hopefully I have my test 1, 2, 3. You can put a number here if you would like. You can put an expiration date. We'll put the April 30th and click OK. And it now shows not only in the driver profile, but it would also show on the grid back here because in the setup there, I set that I needed to show on both of them. Color coding here, red means it's expired, yellow means it's getting close. There's a couple other colors there too, but they just kind of demonstrate different things. Whoops, that's not very good. So in order for that new license to show up in my grid, I would have to close the program and reopen it for it to come into there, simply because I've added something that didn't exist and I've been in the program. So in order for that to exist, I need to close it and come back into it. Go over here to the vehicles and maintenance. In here, I also have the ability to export out my information. If I do a grid export here, it allows me to export out all the information for the vehicles. You will also see that there are columns in here that have values to them, not only expiration dates, but the values. Those items are also added underneath the menu, list management, same items in here. My license types, those are the ones that are available for me to add on to vehicles. So again, if I go to this particular vehicle, utilize my edit option, go to my licenses, I now have the ability in here to add any one of those license types that I have created. These can be anything, airport inspection cards. You can even use them as different, check the oil, anything you want on there, different things in there. And again, I will get a reminder across the bottom down here, letting me know that there are certain things that are due. Now, this one here that has a, let's go with this expiration date. If I go into this thing, because I have fulfilled that, this one here, let's go with the plate and tag. If I go in here, I can update that to a new date, allowing me to go further in here. Let's go to 2019, April 30th, click OK. And as you can see, the red went away, indicating that I have followed through with whatever license or maintenance item that may have been. You can also, again, from anything in here, we do have mileage log that can be entered during the costing portion of the reservation when you're finalizing it out. It can also be added by the driver, utilizing the driver app with a starting and ending mileage. You can export that out. So if you need to verify the miles and do some analysis on that, you can do that. Maintenance, this allows me to, let me touch on that one real quick. If I go to my scheduled maintenance, in here, over on the left side, I have the ability to add different items. These are different than your licenses. They can be used to check when tire rotations, oil changes, belts. And again, you'll get a message down here across the bottom that says vehicle maintenance reminder. So if I want to add anything in here, simply click the add button down here in the lower left, type in what I need to type in. Could be tire rotation, select an OK. Now, from any one of these vehicles, I now have the ability to add in different things. So if I needed to add in a test item to it, I guess I should have clicked the add button there. Oh, gonna select a vehicle. My bad. Let's go to 102. Let's select the add. And now I can add in any one of these things. So I'll say that a test is due. I can either do it at a mileage reminder or a due date. Now, if you are utilizing the mileage, then you will have to be putting in the mileage every time you're finalizing out a reservation in order for it to tell you about this. Once, or a due date, obviously it would tell you based upon that. Once the item has been completed, let's go back to that one there. So this particular here, item here, we have a due date. If I go in to edit that item there, I can say that, no, it's no longer scheduled. I completed it. I could put in the miles of when I did it. And I could put in a cost of how much the cost was to do that. Now, once I've done that, as you can see, that item is gone. But if I now go over to my maintenance cost analysis, I do have a list of different items that I have performed costs on. Those costs are, again, when I finish any one of these items and then put in a cost for it, it will show up over here. There is one other place where you can add these particular things. If I go to the costing and invoicing, go over here, and let's just go into any one of these reservations. As you'll notice down here at the bottom of my costing, I have the ability here to place those mileage, which would then key those reminders, as you can see, the maintenance reminders. And I could add a cost here. There's no reservation on that one. But if I did have a vehicle on that, it would allow me to add the cost to that. Let's see if I have a vehicle on anything here. I'll go to that one. There we go. No vehicle. Okay, so, but that allows you to create that cost item, which would then in turn, again, show up back in here underneath my total costs of things that I performed. And as you can see here, I have vehicle 101 has a $4.
You can add a vehicle column if you want, Brian.
I'm sorry, what?
You can add a vehicle column if you want to that grid.
In here?
Go into costing and invoicing and click on choose columns.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Just add vehicles. That way that'll tell you if
Nope.
that's one of the choices. I thought it was.
No. Let me find one here. There's got to be one. Well, maybe not.
No, we don't.
Okay.
We don't.
Well, you have to believe us that by adding that in there, it allows you to create the cost to it, which again shows back up over there underneath the vehicle area, the costing section of the vehicles there.
And the
Go ahead.
in case the responsibility falls on your billing personnel to record the mileages and record the cost based upon whatever the driver is turning in or sending in or putting in notes that they incurred. In the other case, principally, if you have a full-time maintenance person or a part-time maintenance person, they generally would use the one in the vehicles and maintenance.
Okay, so again, I can export this out. Just remember, almost every grid has an export function. It'll either be located in the lower left. I believe the only one that is somewhere different is on the main grid. We do have an export up here at the top. All of my reports have a grid export down in the lower left, keeping in mind that you can customize any of those that you want there. Wages and commissions does have also an export function to it. In here, lower left. Customers, lower left. So other than the main grid, all of the exports are down in the lower left-hand corner.
Did you cover the right clicking of the header bar and also grouping on that grid?
Okay, I did that in the reports, but we can do that back in here also.
No, that's fine. If you did reports, it's consistent throughout the product, so that's fine.
Yeah, the same functionality exists again on every group. I can funnel anything I want here. Let me find a better one here. I can funnel by selecting particular items there, and it gives me just those reservations. You'll see that it has a grid is filtered. I can also drag and drop it, and it now gives me no types, all my arrivals, all my departures. And again, if you wanted to export that out there. So that grid functionality exists on every grid within the program in reportings, wages and commissions, costing and invoicing when you get into the billed invoices or the manage invoices, I'm sorry. If I go back in here, I have my filters here. I can also drag and drop there. So I think that pretty much covers all of the reporting, being able to customize your various reports, some of the pre-formatted reports we have, such as the wages and commissions, as well as what you can do off the main grid there. Unless there's anything else, Eddie, that you want to add in, I think we've pretty much covered everything here, unless anybody has any questions.
I think you're good, Brian.
Okay. Well, I'd like to thank everybody for attending. Thank you, Eddie, for answering all the questions that popped up, and hope to see you all next week. Have a good week.